So now with that, we're going to move to the current state of collaboration. So I am now going to share my screen and hopefully I do this correctly, and then we'll get going. Oops, it's not that. Thanks, Stefanie. All right. So every year at the Collaborative Journalism Summit, we do the annual State of Collaboration. The last few years, we've done a video showing the current state of collaboration. This year, I decided to do more of a lightning talk, but we do anticipate releasing a video soon. We've asked all of our attendees to send us selfie videos of what you think the current state of collaboration is. And we're going to continue to encourage you to do that. And I'm hoping by June, we'll release a video version of the state of collaboration that includes your voices in it. But what I'll present now is some things that we see from a 30,000-foot view that's happening in the world of collaboration. So these are the 5 things that I'm going to talk about briefly that we see are happening in this area of journalism. So we're going to talk about how collaboration is increasing, global work, the effects of coronavirus, ongoing versus temporary collaborations, and also some of the recognition that we see happening today. So what's happening? Number 1, collaboration is increasing. We are continuing to see a lot of different kinds of organizations join journalism collaboratives. So when I say that we're seeing a more diverse set of organizations joining collaboratives, I don't mean just in terms of the journalism outlets, although that is true too. We're seeing more local civic organizations, NGOs, libraries, and more community partners joining collaborative efforts. And that's likely going to continue. It's a really good thing, and it's likely going to continue, especially because of the pandemic that we're in. So that's something that we're definitely seeing right now. In addition, we are seeing more news outlets and different kinds of news outlets join collaborative efforts. For a long time, newspapers and commercial TV were 2 parts of the industry that were the least likely to collaborate, and that has been changing fairly quickly. We've also continued just to see so many collaborations announced, dozens this year alone. And I'm including projects when I say that, as well as ongoing efforts, which we're going to talk about in a moment. We maintain a database at collaborativejournalism.org/database of such projects. And I'll tell you that we've had a really hard time keeping up lately, not only because there's just a lot of projects being announced, but a lot of different kind of projects being announced. And we've been trying to figure out how exactly to map them properly in that database. And as I mentioned a moment ago, in terms of the diversity of news organizations joining collaborations, collaborations have long been a hallmark, especially of nonprofit, independent, public, community, immigrant, ethnic media. And now we're seeing more influential industry leaders and mainstream news organizations embracing this kind of work. So number 2, what's also happening, global work is growing. So ICIJ has clearly been the leader in this over the last several years with the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers, and all the work that they continue to do. If you don't subscribe to ICIJ's newsletters, or if you haven't donated to them before, I would highly recommend it. The subject line of their newsletter yesterday, "The Power of Global Collaboration," was like perfect timing in my inbox for the summit. Their work has been incredible, and it's really helping to fuel a lot of the global collaborations that we're seeing. ICFJ is in the same camp. ICFJ's work has also been critical in different countries around the world, and they've also been a great partner to us at the center for some of the work that we've been doing. Also, First Draft and the collaboratives that they've run around mis and disinformation, especially related to elections, has helped expand collaborative journalism beyond investigation. So most of the global work that we've studied had mostly been very focused on investigative journalism, but First Draft's work and also the International Fact-Checking Network's work has really helped expand that beyond investigation to look at mis and disinformation and fact-checking. And as Christina told us yesterday, the current fact-checking initiative around the coronavirus is the largest fact-checking initiative in the world. the largest that they've ever run. It's huge. And so that's been really critical. Also, collaboration is very common in parts of Latin America and Europe, but it's growing more so in different parts of the world, especially in Asia and Australia. The Pangolin reports is an excellent example of a great collaborative effort in Asia recently, for example. So 3, when we talk about what's happening, COVID-19 partnerships. So the coronavirus has dramatically changed the journalism industry, and the collaborative journalism piece of this is no different. It spurred a series of new collaborative efforts, but it's also altered a lot of current collaborations, which we heard yesterday and we're going to continue to hear today. And one point I just want to point out, as news organizations lose staff, I hope that we will continue to see that collaboration looked at as a way to fill community information need gaps rather than fill empty newsroom beats. And I think Sarah Alvarez talked about this so eloquently yesterday when she talked about the work that Outlier is doing to help news organizations partner to fill community information need gaps here in the United States during this pandemic. Also, we're seeing ongoing efforts being starting to be announced more and more. So Jennifer mentioned Resolve Philadelphia, which is the gold standard right now in the United States for an ongoing collaborative. But in the US alone, there have been at least a half dozen new semi-permanent ongoing collaboratives that have either been announced in the last few months or are in the process of forming. And to note, several of those are supported thanks to Knight Foundation and Google funding. And of course, number 5, recognition. So 2 more Pulitzer Prizes this year for collaborative efforts, which is fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, this year is the largest summit ever. We had 750 people register, many of them, as I mentioned, around the world. We see more trade publications looking at how journalists work together and more research being done that focuses on this. So what will happen next as we look forward to the rest of 2020 and 2021? These are just a few things that we see coming up, and I hope some of these come true. I really do. COVID-19 is going to continue to spur partnerships. That is something that I think is clear. It was probably clear to all of us. It's going to just continue to change how we work, and it's very likely that collaboration is going to play a role in how journalists respond to the pandemic. We also think that freelance and independent journalists will begin to play a bigger role in collaborative efforts. And I hear Hazel Becker in the back of my mind when I say that, because she's been a big advocate of this for a long time. So is Hostwriter. And you'll hear from Daniel Bates at Hostwriter later in the day today. So freelance and independent journalists are just so important. I also think of Sarah Baird's work with Shoe Leather. And I really hope that we will continue to see them integrated more from the beginning in collaborative efforts. Collaborations hopefully will begin to focus more on information needs, as I mentioned a moment ago. I do think we will continue to see external funding to support collaborative efforts. That's in part because of the effects of the pandemic, but also just in part that it reflects how funding multiple news organizations working to fill community information need gaps is something that more funders are interested in. It's something that is, makes sense for the way many of them invest in their communities. We also think happening next is that revenue generation specifically will be explored. So that's not something that's quite been a focus of a lot of collaboratives, looking at how they can actually make money together. And I know it's something that the Local Media Association, for example, will be helping to pioneer in the work that it'll be doing going forward. So that is what we currently see as the state of collaboration. And I welcome any input that you have on that presentation. And I really hope that you'll send us your selfie videos so that we can put together what you see as the current state of collaborative journalism.